William Collins and Argo present The Turn of the Screw, written by Henry James. Read by Virginia McKenna.
It's too horrible. It's beyond everything. Nothing at all that I know touches it. For dreadful dreadfulness, for general uncanny ugliness, and horror and pain. She was a most charming person, my sister's governess. She was the most agreeable woman I've ever known in her position. She would have been worthy of any whatever. It was long ago, and this episode was long before. I was at Trinity, and I found her at home on my coming down the second summer. I liked her extremely, and am glad to this day to think she liked me too. If she hadn't, she wouldn't have told me. She had never told anyone. The youngest of several daughters of a poor country parson, she had, at the age of 20, on taking service for the first time in the schoolroom, come up to London in trepidation to answer in person an advertisement that had already placed her in brief correspondence with the advertiser. This person proved, on her presenting herself for judgment at a house in Harley Street that impressed her as vast and imposing, this prospective patron proved a gentleman, a bachelor in the prime of life, such a figure as had never risen save in a dream or an old novel before a fluttered, anxious girl out of a Hampshire vicarage. He was handsome and bold and pleasant, offhand and gay and kind. He struck her inevitably as gallant and splendid, but what took her most of all and gave her the courage she afterwards showed was that he put the whole thing to her as a kind of favor, an obligation he should gratefully incur. She conceived him as rich, but as fearfully extravagant, saw him all in a glow of high fashion, of good looks, of expensive habits, of charming ways with women. He had for his town residence a big house filled with the spoils of travel and the trophies of the chase, but it was to his country home, an old family place in Essex, that he wished her immediately to proceed. He had been left, by the death of their parents in India, guardian to a small nephew and a small niece, children of a military brother whom he had lost 2 years before. It had all been a great worry, and on his own part, doubtless, a series of blunders, but he immensely pitied the poor chicks and had done all he could, had in particular sent them down to his other house, the proper place for them being, of course, the country, and kept them there from the first with the best people he could find to look after them. He had put them in possession of Bly, which was healthy and secure, and had placed at the head of their little establishment an excellent woman, Mrs. Gross, whom he was sure his visitor would like, and who had formerly been maid to his mother. She was now housekeeper. There were plenty of people to help, but of course the young lady who should go down as governess would be in supreme authority. She would also have in holidays to look after the small boy who had been for a term at school. There had been, for the two children at first, a young lady whom they had had the misfortune to lose. She had done for them quite beautifully. She was a most respectable person, till her death, which had left no alternative but the school for little Miles. Mrs. Gross, since then, in the way of manners and things, had done as she could for Flora. Of course, the prospect struck her as slightly grim. She was young, untried, nervous. It was a vision of serious duties and little company, of really great loneliness. She hesitated, took a couple of days to consult and consider, but the salary offered much exceeded her modest measure, and on a second interview she faced the music.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?